Hey there, boys and girls. So I'm going to do a quick video on saw safety, setting up the radial arm saw for doing rip cut. So right now I'm working on, I'll take the camera off here and show you. Working on setting up my saw for ripping a sheet of plywood to go in between the, what is this called, the toe kick again, just so I have, so sawdust, etc. can't go underneath the cabinet. It'll, the sheet of plywood will go with this entire width, and then the whole length in between. So that's about 4.5 inches. So I got my saw here that it's already set up. So the blade is 4.5 inches away from the fence. So we're going to do a little video to show you how to set up the, it's called a splitter, and also has anti-kickback pawls. So we're going to show you how to set that up. There's an additional feature on the blade guard itself, which sort of serves to keep the wood from kicking up in the event that you have maybe some warped wood that you're trying to cut. So when you're setting up a saw to do a cut, it's helpful to have at least some piece of stock that is the same dimension, the same thickness primarily, as what you're going to be cutting. So right now my blade is well above the table, so if I ran this through there, it would not cut all the way through. So we need to first get the elevation of this blade down so that it's cutting down into the table. And I'm just slowly lowering it until I can hear the teeth and feel them engaging with the wood. And that's all you need. You don't need to cut down 1/8 of an inch into the wood. So our blade guard here at the very front of it, it has it's got this little lip that comes down, and it comes down well in front of the saw, and it's flat across the front, and that's the first thing that we set up. So we set that height. You don't want it touching the board that you're going to be ripping, because then it'll cause excess resistance as you're trying to feed the stock into the blade. So we just pick it up a tiny bit, just enough so that in the event that there's some warpage in the wood, or something happens, I flinch my muscles or something like that, I'm not allowed to, I'm basically prevented from picking up the board and the blade launching it back at me. So it's sitting up just like a 32nd of an inch or so off the plywood. So that's the blade guard. That adjusts the tilt of it. Now we need to set the splitter and anti-kickback pawls. So this is where it's really helpful to have a stock that's long enough to cover front to back of the blade guard. So with this particular radial arm saw, it's a 9-inch Craftsman radial arm saw, probably from the 70s. Who knows how old this thing is? 1/2 inch is about as thin a stock as the splitter and anti-kickback pawls, mainly the anti-kickback pawls, will help you out with. Any thinner than that, and these anti-kickback pawls will not really engage the wood. But frankly, if you're ripping 3/8 plywood, it doesn't really have a whole lot of mass and therefore momentum, so it probably wouldn't be as dangerous. So for 1/2 inch, I'm setting the splitter here all the way down, and I've got adjustment screws on the back of the blade guard housing. There's one thumb screw on the back, on the outside in this particular case, and then there's 2 adjustment screws that are offset from that, above and below. And what that allows is for you to adjust those screws. The 3 of them, you can adjust the splitter to be perfectly in line with the blade. You can teeter it to either side, either inside or outside of the blade, and then finally fine tune it so that as you sight down the splitter at the blade, you're right on it, which in this case, we're good to go. So, if I had a thicker piece of stock that I was going to rip, like something 3/4 of an inch or, you know, an inch, what have you, I would set the splitter so that, let's see if this is on in the frame here. Yeah, so we'll zoom in over here on the splitter and we'll focus. The splitter here has a little geometry to it. It's got an angle coming up here. I set this up so that whatever my stock thickness, this corner here is at the top of the wood, top of the surface, and that gives really good engagement with these anti-kickback pawls, so that as I feed my stock in, come along, they come up, they engage the stock, and then if kickback occurred, it doesn't lock as well on a 1/2 inch sheet, like I mentioned, but in a larger bit of stock, it most definitely does engage very, very well. But these anti-kickback balls will help to mitigate kickback. So it does a pretty good job. Alright, so we're all set up for making this cut. Again, it's going to be about 4.5 inches wide to cover the toe kick of my cabinet here. Alright, thanks for watching.